Hello everybody, it's your boy N here. I'm coming at you guys with another YouTube video. Now, crit Freyna is here and she's just as viable, if not better, than non-crit inside of dungeons or inside of Axion. And honestly, I think it's more of a setup for the future, but you definitely want to invest in crit Freyna. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So let me give you a quick rundown of non-crit Freyna first. So for non-crit Freyna, this is what I would be using. You can exchange red mods from Contagion to Venom Synthesis to whatever. It really doesn't matter with Freyna, especially with her skill based setup. For my Ancestor mod, I am using range, tech, cooldown with negative crit rate. This would be replaced by skill expansion if you were to use this on your normal build, but because I've got a golden range, I'd rather use that. Of course, it's a little bit more than expansion, so this would be skill expansion. In terms of red mod, I am going to be using Venom Synthesis just because I do like the way it plays, especially in Axion. So we'll be going with that specifically in this instance. Now, for the reactor, toxic and cooldown, because I'm only using one cooldown module, red cooldown on there would be nice along with a plague set. For the arcade tuning tree, toxic cohesion up here, and a little bit of damage, a little bit of cooldown. For the weapons, we've gone with a secret garden with sharp precision shot on here. This will allow us to basically use our fourth ability and get a good kick of damage. Having over 11.7 rounds per mag on here is also ideal, so you want to make sure you have that for a little bit of extra rounds. For Axion, at least, you'd want to make sure you've got the Deus to nuke your boss at the end. Honestly, yeah, this is good enough. Inversions, I've gone with skill cost as well as going with a bit of HP and a bit of MP recovery. Now, just for a quick little bit of gameplay, I'm just going to solo the crater. Specifically the crater, because, yep. Okay, let's just run this. So for this, you can see with the regular non-crit Freyna, you would be getting plenty of damage everywhere. The ticks can be from between like 50k all the way up to 100k. I think the highest ticks I've seen from Freyna in general has been around about 200k with the Ancestor mod, but I'm not making an entire build that is just based on one singular Ancestor mod if it's not based for crit setup for the future. You can see over here on majority of these mobs, 100k, 200k is on the actual, tunnels and stuff like that. 700k is on the tunnels, 800k is on the tunnels. This is overall just, it's easy, right? And Freyna does very good damage to these in general. I'm using Axion as kind of a baseline because, all my homies love the Axion, and running this in pubs will give you about a similar experience. Even with this, when it does come to it, this is kind of what you'd be expecting. Now, crit Freyna does, of course, rely on an Ancestor module. However, I'm just going to get to that bit once it comes to it because, like I said, I honestly think Ancestor mods are more so set up over everything else. When you get a good Ancestor mod and bleed into it for a build, it has more potential, especially if there becomes more methods to add crit to that Descendant in the future. It definitely ends up working out and becoming a little bit nicer. Now, again over here, the whole reason I like using Venom Synth is because when it comes to this phase over here, you can just go up to wherever, drop toxic and literally run off and go to the next part, and the mobs will literally be infected. It's done and dusted. It's a lot easier and a lot faster than having to bother with spreading toxic yourself manually and stuff like that. So I'm a big believer in this, especially in Axion. I do think Freyna plays very, very nicely over here with this. Now, again, I'm just going to quickly run through this mission. Simple. And it's basically just, letting the mobs die to the toxic and stuff. It's Freyna stuff, isn't it, really? Also, just use this on there. Get that out of the way. Also get this annoying discharge out of the way. Actually, we can leave him, it really doesn't matter. With the 4, we're getting decent-ish cooldown, if not actually quite really good cooldown on here, so that's one thing you might want to remember. Other than that, grab the mobs over here. And the whole reason I'm not using the bike on here as well is because if I'm gonna show you what it's capable of, I'm gonna just, you know, not use the bike so that people can see what it's also like in dungeons and stuff like that if they want to base the damage off that, so on and so forth. Great, there you go. Right, onto the final boss fight. So this would be where we pull the sword out. Again, slam that down. This is where it becomes a little bit of fishing with the sword. Always want to give him 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Crap, I'm dead. No, I'm not. Barely survived it. Crap, I died. GG's. But you can just swing around him with the sword, you know how it is. Alright, let's quickly finish him off there. Alright, there you go. With that run, it would be about 343, quite a slow run, based off what I've experienced before. The other run I did with this setup was around about 3 minutes 8 seconds. So there you go, that's non-crit Freyna. Stuff you all know about, right? So what happens when we change it over into crit Freyna? So for crit Freyna, this is what basically changed. We use the same secret garden, we use the same dais. For our modules, we still use Venom Synth because I'm just going to show you how it equally performs. Still power beyond. This is the mod setup we use, and we want red crit rate on our ancestor. As much crit rate as you can. This can again be improved with crit damage as well, and with toxic modifier or tech modifier, so there's genuinely so much more damage that could be pulled out of this one ancestor mod as well. Cooldown if you're about that as well, and that's basically it. In terms of the build, that's literally the only change. The tree will also change into going up to crit rate and crit damage, still using toxic cohesion. The reactor is toxic and tech. Having crit rate or crit damage on here would also be very good. Same comp, same everything else. Now that run was about 348. Let's give it about 340 if I hadn't died. We'll call it there. Now, when it comes to crit Freyna, overall your ticks might technically be less because they're not as fast is what they would want you to think, but oh my goodness, when toxic Freyna or crit Freyna starts kicking with her ticks, she becomes crazy good, especially with just her damage and everything that this Descendant is capable of. Now, I also want to remind you guys, Freyna with this Ancestor mod still only has 25% or 27% crit rate. This is with a 27% crit rate, mind you. And it's ridiculous because, like, you can see how capable this Descendant is, especially with just, you know, these crits are reaching like tracked numbers. And even though you might be thinking that, yeah, wait, hold up, it's not that much of a difference, and non-crit is consistently higher, non-crit's numbers basically are what's the equivalent of it. They're about the same, because even non-crit has bouts where the numbers go down to like 30 to 50k, and then up to like flipping 80 to 100 and 150, so on and so forth. So in terms of their actual damage output, crit is significantly better, just because of course, you know, multiplier and stuff. So I'm gonna have to put my hands behind crit when it comes to overall damage output. Now you can see over here, and even with this as well, just it's nice to see everything get infected with toxic so quickly. Freyna just annihilating everything, just exactly what you'd expect out of Venom Synthesis. Anyways, giving it a second, and these crits just, they end up killing everything so fast. It's so good. I think that when I was testing this, in terms of just viability, in terms of dungeons and stuff like that as well, if you do want to use this inside 400% and stuff like that as well, don't worry, you will absolutely not be lacking. Crit Freyna in dungeons just deletes everything as well. It's like insane. And with dungeons, the mobs are so weak in general that they have little to basically no resistance, so you'll have an even better time, especially in dungeons, if that is where you want to be using this setup in as well. What you can see in general, I'm just running and jumping around with Freyna. If you use Contagion instead of Venom Synthesis, it's still literally the exact same loop of gameplay. It's just that you won't be seeing crits and stuff like, it's just that, you know, instead of having to actually run to the part of the map where you want to throw your toxic down, You just press your 3 and your 1 and you just aim it in a better location. Basically as simple as that when it comes to Freyna anyways. So yeah, in general, you're going to see how fast everything dies, and with Venom Synthesis, the greatest strength is preset up and stuff like that, so you can go all the way here, hit care, drop your toxic, get it spreading and all that sort of stuff in general before you do all of this. Now, I do think overall, like, this is 100% viable, even with a very, very low crit rate. I still do genuinely think that this is probably Freyna in her absolute peak at the moment. Until you get basically the most perfect ancestor mod for it, this is kind of what you're just going to be expecting, which is kind of back and forth, I guess, but that's just how it is, especially when it comes to how it is with ancestor mods. It's basically infinite levels of RNG fishing, and this is kind of the RNG game that you decided to sign up to play. Roll out of there, roll back in there, go in with these slams and stuff like that. That run with Crit Freyna was about the same in terms of time, so this proves that time-wise you can get literally the exact same runs, except Crit Freyna has the potential to be buffed by Luna, which would in turn make these runs even faster. In terms of dungeon usage and stuff like that, I already went over that. She's just as capable. In terms of which one is better, Crit sets you up for more stuff, but a viable setup with Crit Freyna is here. And like I said, the 27% crit rate is enough to get you started. Do I think this can become better? Yes. Like I said, I've only got red crit rate on my ancestor. If I get damage on there, or if I get crit damage on there with like a harmless negative, this could go further. And again, maybe using Venom Synthesis might not be the fastest, so on and so forth. Contagion might be a little bit better. You know, back and forth. Overall, I think they are on par. Crit and non-crit is completely on par with each other. Crit has potential to be better, and honestly, I would say invest in the non-crit. It's pretty much not going to hurt you, especially if you have the Ancestor mod. If you don't have the Ancestor mod, stick to non-crit. Like I said, they're just as capable, and yeah. This is a step in the right direction, I guess, and we'll see what more comes out of it. It is kind of hard to experiment with these, especially because of the fact that, you know, RNG based and you can't really spawn in the perfect stats, so yeah. I'm holding a cough in so badly. Anyways, guys, I hope you've enjoyed. If you did, please just smash that like button. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing. I make plenty of videos on the first Descendant. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.